you got a dinosaur. He's big, he's snarly, he might even smell bad. Not that we really know what dinosaurs smell like. And, you know, he crushes buildings, chases characters, eats people and stuff like that. That's cool for, like, you know, other eras. But, you know, that's not cool enough for the 80s or early 90s. We gotta have more Dino Bell, ladies and gentlemen. So you know what we need to do? We need to, like, combine the dinosaur with, like, something that's also awesome. But you know what is also awesome? Cars. Cars are awesome. But it can't just be, like, you know, some kind of crappy hatchback made by Honda. It needs to be something big and powerful. You know, possibly a Cadillac. And we need to make them somehow coexist with one another. Thus we enter Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. As far as high concepts go, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs doesn't get much higher. You got a car, and you got a dinosaur, and somehow they coexist. You got generic adventurers and hot chick adventurers, and they go on various adventures. The Cadillacs and Dinosaurs franchise was rather popular in the early 1990s, and was one that I had some interest in. One of my early comics of all time was actually an issue of the Cadillacs and Dinosaurs comic series, which I found to be, Ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be taking a look at the Cadillacs and Dinosaurs arcade game by Capcom. A game I came across randomly when I was going through my MAME library many years ago. And just now have I finally gotten around to reviewing it. And believe me, it has been worth the wait. Since this franchise has fallen into obscurity, and I will explain why later in the video, I need to give some background. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs started out in the anthology comic Death Rattle. Yeah, those guys, you know, like with the word bubbles. This would have been around 1986. A year later in 87, the series would really start, and would feature the adventures of Jack Tarrick, generic guy, and Hannah, generic girl. The comics themselves were just standard pulp fare. Our heroes would have to fight evil hunters and run from enraged dinos. The franchise would also spawn a TV show of sadly forgettable quality. As with many franchises in the early 90s, all sorts of bric-a-brac was created as well. You had candy bars, action figures, all sorts of crap that tried to cash in on the Cadillacs and Dinosaurs craze, however short-lived it may have been. In 1993, Capcom would release Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, the arcade game. When it comes to beat-em-ups, Capcom is second to none. The game feels very fluid, and the characters have numerous moves you can pull off. And there are power-ups aplenty, and each power-up is distinct and is very fun to use. They're not just generic guns. When you pick up an Uzi, you know it's a goddamn Uzi. And in pure beat-em-up fashion, you can chuck your empty weapon at an enemy for extra damage. Like in AVP the arcade game, 3 players can play simultaneously. The game, however, gives you 4 characters to choose from for whatever reason. First up is Jack T. He has good ability, it seems, and is the leader of the team and owner of a massive car repair facility. Then you have Hannah D, and she has good item use. Oh dear, she's having a great deal of fun indeed. She's a bit faster than Jack, but takes more damage. Then you have Mustafa. He apparently went to the same fighting academy that Ryu and Ken went to because he has flying kicks. And he is so proud of those flying kicks that he uses it as his one defining characteristic. And really, he should be fairly proud of them because they are very useful for crowd control. Then you have Brick from Borderlands. Wait, what's he doing here? Here we have Mess. He is called High Powered, which I suppose is the Cadillacs and Dinosaurs euphemism for steroid powered. His steroid usage allows him to take a little more damage and dish out a little more damage. What character you choose doesn't really matter all that much, as this is an arcade game, and its main goal was to separate kids from their hard-earned quarters. But the game is not nearly as tough as some other arcade games, and is not nearly as cheap as it could be. Case in point, after you die, and trust me, you're going to be doing this a lot, you blast back onto the screen by dropping some bombs. And these bombs will damage most of the enemies on the screen. They won't do that much damage, but every little bit helps. If you lose all your lives, you get treated to this awesome game over screen, and you have a generic bad guy about to shoot you, and then... Now that is what I'm talking about. Damn, I love the 90s. After getting back to the game, you have a rocket launcher. This being a beat-em-up, it can give basics in one hit, but heavier enemies tank it due to their fighting spirit. You can also pick up health power-ups here and there, ranging from horrid coffee to entire sushi meals complete with plates. Who knew that generic thugs had such refined palates? They will restore some health, but expect to die a lot all the same. Graphically, this is a Capcom game from the early 90s. The graphics have, of course, not aged in the slightest. The graphics are quite good and turn me on. Everything is well drawn, well animated, and it looks like one is playing a comic book. Hell, the game even has word bubbles pop up to complete the immersion. Back in 1993, this would have impressed. And in the space year 2018, it's still damn impressive. 2D art from the 90s has aged in ways that 3D art wishes it had. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs could possibly look a little better today, but I feel if it was too polished or was turned into 2.5D, it would lose some of its comic book charm. As with any beat-em-up, the enemy variety is considerable, but you will end up fighting some of the same guys over and over again. It's actually kind of funny because when you think about it, you're not really killing these guys, you're just beating the crap out of them. Well, unless you blow them up with a bazooka or blow them up with dynamite, but hey, those guys had it coming. As this is a Capcom game, there is a reference to their extremely popular Street Fighter franchise in the guise of Bludge, who I suppose is the degenerate many times great grandson of Blanka. And he can and will kick your ass if you give him half a chance. Sound design is pretty bloody good, however there's a little bit of crackle whenever you strike a blow. However, this is offset by the meatiness of the blows and the satisfying nature of them. The voice acting in the game is absolutely excellent. It is sufficiently cheesy and doesn't sound that compressed. As for the music, well, like with the graphics, this is an early 90s Capcom game. So now, let's take a look at the story. Alright, so everyone's asking the question that I was asking back when I was a kid. How do Cadillacs and dinosaurs coexist with one another? Well, it's the future. In fact, it is the 2500s. Humanity went into underground cities to weather the apocalypse. What caused the apocalypse? Rising levels of pollution. When will we learn? And after all that time, humanity got out of their little vaults and found that dinosaurs were alive again somehow. See, that's part of the story that never really made much sense to me, and I think that didn't make a lot of sense to anyone else either. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs didn't have much of a plot per se. It was just Cadillacs and Dinosaurs! And you're just supposed to go with it. Arcade games are generally not known for their stories. Usually you just get one, maybe two text screens, and that's it. And with some games, you don't even get that. In the early 90s, Capcom went above and beyond and featured stories that were somewhat complex and, most importantly, fun. And they also featured fairly complex cutscenes that have aged remarkably well. The story here fully embraces the far-out concept of dinosaurs coexisting with Cadillacs and gives an awe-inspirational comic book-styled experience. The game itself starts up in media res. I bet you never expected that term to be used in a beat-em-up review. The Dino Squad. I know, it's just one guy, but the others are there in spirit, are being menaced by a generic thug saying that they have been meddling too much, and that now they will face their fate. You then get to doing just one thing, and that is kicking asses. You kick the crap out of some thugs and then beat some information out of a small-time boss. He says that the butcher is in the forest, and that he's really crazy. Dude, how much more crazy than you could he be? Look at what you have on, and what in the name of the Great Space Dragon is up with your hair? Ugh, 90s. Hell, even my hair was terrible then. Yeah, I rocked a mullet. Hey, it was the style of the time. Even Superman had one. Don't judge me. At least it wasn't a man bun. The butcher is suitably creepy with a demented laugh, and you beat the crap out of him too. And then it's off to the Hell Road. Apparently this guy with this magnificent mane of hair learns that Jack and company are pretty busy and thus decides to attack Jack's garage. Oh, ooh la la, Mr. French. Jack calls it his car hold. While on the Hell Road to Jack's car hold, you get to drive Jack's bright blue caddy. Sadly, it controls like a wallowing pig, and before the level ends, you will likely have it blown out from under you. The car hold level is quite fun, and holy crap, it's less of a car repair facility and more of a bloody factory. Well, those caddies gotta come from somewhere. The plot really kicks off when a wimpy-looking boss mutates into a dinosaur-human hybrid. Come on, Jurassic Park 6, give me those dino-human hybrid mercs! It would be awesome! This boss takes quite a few quarters to complete, as he is fast and has a whole bunch of health bars. It turns out that an evil scientist is creating a new life form to take over the world! And he's taken a few pages from Giger's playbook, as he has even created facehuggers. The various human dino hybrids have a really cool and creative design that really has an otherworldly air to it. And you eventually face the creator of all these dino-human hybrids, Dr. Fessenden. He has a couple of forms, including a double-headed T-Rex form. But like with so many other bosses before him, he gets his crap kicked out. That being said, he has a hilarious line when he says, "Mutating is such a rush!" You might think that that A-bomb looking thing back there is actually some sort of atomic weapon, but no, you would be wrong. That is the last canister of surge to survive the apocalypse. With Dr. Fessenden defeated, our stalwart heroes make their escape from his doom fortress. I'm going to go ahead and give a spoiler alert here, as the ending is actually better than one might think. As the Dino team escapes, Hannah, of course, trips, and Jack tries to save her, only for them both to get caught in the cave-in, thus leaving only Mustafa and Mess alive. And the game ends with them walking sullenly off into the sunset as the credits roll. I'm gonna be honest here, this little bait and switch was effective. How many arcade games would just end here? But no, after the credits roll, Jack and Hannah ride onto the screen and say that they made it, and then the team rockets off into the sunset for future adventures. The end. The story is absolutely nothing special, but it was early 90s Capcom, so they made it work, and they were even able to make the player care about the characters by giving them just enough characterization to matter. And that bait and switch was really effective. The game actually fooled me into believing that Hannah and Jack were really dead. I fully expected to see the end pop up after the credits. So that bait and switch right there really does deserve praise. So, why, despite this awesome game, is Cadillacs and Dinosaurs an obscure franchise in the space year 2018? Well, it was no Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. TMNT was a standout name, and it had a great story that kept evolving over the years. C's and D's didn't. Cadillacs and Dinosaurs will stick in your brain for years, and by
Its very nature makes you want to see what it's all about, but when it came down to substance, it just wasn't there. The characters were not memorable in the slightest, the world was not memorable in any way, shape, or form other than the fact that dinosaurs and Cadillacs existed together, and the stories were just generic fare all around. And eventually, the name just fell out of the popular consciousness, as it is truly hard to keep people's interest with just a cool sounding name. You have to have something to back it up, and sadly, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs just did not have enough going for it to keep it popular.
I highly recommend Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, as it is a superlative gaming experience, be it played single or multi. And so, I am General Lotz, wishing you good Punisher the arcade game, and good D&D Shadows over Mysteria, whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed my review of Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you these awesome arcade game reviews.